know she needs our continued prayers for her, and we hope to have her and Brother Homer back into class soon. So please remember them. And let's see, for our lesson, today we're going to be studying about, anybody guess what our class, yeah, we're definitely studying 1 Corinthians. And so Corinth was a city that was, as we know, was a trade center, had a large population. They had a large group of people that came through all the time from different other countries trading things, north and south as well as east and west. So it was a natural crossroads. What else do we know about Corinth? They worshiped idols. And so they had a place called the Acro-Corinth, which was a place where they had a temple for Aphrodite. They also had other things. From the Greek and Romans, they didn't just believe in one God, they believed in many gods. And so as a way to make sure they covered everything, they worshiped pretty much every god for all kinds of different things. So much so that they even built a monument to the unknown God, and Paul had given them some feedback about that was the one that they should be paying the most attention to. So today's lesson, anybody know what our lesson is about, the topic? Yeah, it's about idolatry. And so you say, well, do we just say this? We just had this lesson a couple of chapters ago. Why are we talking about this again? One reason we're talking about it again is Paul's talking about it again in the letter to the church at Corinth. And the reason we in our own lives say something more than once is because it's important. And so the fact that Paul said something about it to them more than one time really meant that they needed to deal with this situation, that it was something that was very prevalent in the church and in the community. And he talked to them about the importance of why they should think about it and how they should think about it. And he gave them a lot of good information, and so we're going to look at that good information as we go through our lesson today. Okay, we should probably start by reading some verses. So if somebody would like to read 1 Corinthians 10, 1 through 13. Thank you, Sister Joanne. So what we see here is Paul is bringing up some examples from the Old Testament. So if you just look at my Bible, look how much of that, this side is the Old Testament. Everybody knows that. This side's the New Testament. Look how much difference there is, how much information. Now, would you say when Christ came, we don't need to worry about this part? Because we're not under the law, right? We're under grace. So why do we need that part? There's a whole story of what God's plan is, and you can't tell the story of God's plan without knowing the Old Testament, but a lot of the reason we're given the Old Testament is for examples. They're examples of things that happened in the Old Testament we should know. We should know the situation. We should know who was involved. We should know where it happened. We should know who was affected, what was God's actions or inaction in any specific situation. It's important for us to know about this so that we can do a good job today. And so when you're getting ready to do anything new, whatever it is, so our niece, Violet, is starting to drive a car. And so we got a picture of her at the license bureau where she got her driver's license. A permit, okay, it's not a license, it's a permit. And so then she ended up driving, I don't know how far, she drove on the highway, she drove other things. How would you know how to drive if you hadn't seen anybody else do it before? Would you have any idea? If somebody just said, oh, throw you the keys. If you hadn't seen anybody drive, would you have any idea? Is it, what am I supposed to do? Well, just get in and drive. So the reason we have the examples from the Old Testament is to show not just the actions, but even the thought patterns of people. What were they thinking? And then what did they do as a result of what their focus was? And then what happened? And so I guess we would say that, what was the situation? What action did they take? And what was the result? And we have a benefit of being able to learn from that and say, okay, we saw the result that happened. I don't want to do that thing. We have this thing that Darla and I watch. It's on YouTube, I guess, and it's like daily fails or something. I don't know what it is. You know, somebody's grilling something and their whole grill's on fire, lights the house on fire, and whatever else it is. And I don't know, people are like, oh, that's bad. Well, you should look at that and say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have my grill underneath my house. Maybe I should just put it to the side where it's not, right underneath it. And so there's things, we can laugh or make light of it, but we can learn from that and say, yeah, this stuff we shouldn't do, because we see what happens. We see the situation. You see drivers of Amazon trucks, they pull up in a driveway or like beside one, and they jump out of the truck and put in a package they forgot to put the brake on. And the truck is rolling away. Never happened to you? You get out of the car and you're like, oh, I forgot to put it in park. Yeah, we do that stuff. And so all those things to say, it doesn't matter what age we are. It's not just Violet. Violet is just getting her permit, learning how to drive. She's young. When you're older, you can't say, well, I know all that stuff. I'm an awesome driver now because I've learned every lesson and I'm just, I do everything right and I don't have to worry about that. Then the first time around here, you see a snowstorm or ice on the road, and what happens? Is it just young people you see that are off in a ditch or something or in an accident? No, it's pretty much everybody, right? Everybody. Because people will forget, oh, even though I'm in a hurry to get where I'm going, there's ice and I can't drive this fast and my car doesn't work the same. And even if I don't remember, my car remembers that it doesn't get traction and whatever happens, happens. So So this whole thing with the church at Corinth, this is Paul sort of doubling down on this whole thing of idolatry in Israel. If you look in the Old Testament, constantly going back to idolatry over and over and over and over again. Don't even know how many times. Somebody somewhere on the internet knows how many times. I don't know how many times, I haven't counted, but it's lots of times. And so there must be a reason why that they did it, and he's trying to relate that to them in this situation to help them see things more clearly and how they should change their behavior. So at the beginning, moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant how that our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. Paul's really using an economy of words here. When I read the Bible, I am amazed how much information is in here. You think, oh, look at this book. I can read this in a few hours. No, you're not going to read it in a few hours. There's too much information in here. Just in this one phrase that he's saying is, he's talking to brothers in the church, I would not that you should be ignorant. Now, keep in mind where they are. They're in Corinth, and this is where they have philosophers and people challenging each other and how they think about things and our place in the world and all these other sorts of things. So when he says, I wouldn't have you be ignorant, he's getting their attention, isn't he? These folks think they're pretty intelligent. Their community is pretty intelligent. So when I wouldn't have you to be ignorant, if somebody wasn't paying attention, I pretty much think they were paying attention on the next part that he's going to say here. Our fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. So who's he talking about there? He's talking about Israel. So what is this cloud he's talking about? Yeah, it's a pillar of cloud by day and then as a fire by night. And it guided them when they went across the Red Sea and pretty much beyond that. And so why is he this seems kind of random, doesn't it, to bring this up? Why is he bringing this up? Yep. And so the one thing that was common about the people that were in Egypt is they left. Those people left. They prayed to the Lord for so long to be freed from slavery, and they had the plagues that the Lord brought using Moses, and then it was time to leave. And they left. And when they left, did they go different directions? Did you have some say, well, I'm going this way, and other ones say, I'm going that way, and let's all spread out and meet later at this appointed place kind of thing? No, they were all unified. They went exactly the direction that the Lord was leading them, and they did it together. It says here they were baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. What they're trying to say there is, we are saved by the Lord by believing in Jesus Christ as our personal Savior, and that our salvation is by grace and it's not by works. And when we have that belief, we're following Jesus. And so when we are baptized after that, baptism is just a show of what actually happened with us. It's a ceremony that shows what happened to us. And so what they're saying here, they were all baptized unto Moses. It wasn't literally baptized unto Moses. They're a follower of Moses. They were following Moses as Moses followed the Lord. And so that's what they were doing. And they all ate the same spiritual meat, the next verse. And they did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock that was Christ. So what happened once they were in the desert? So they crossed the Red Sea, all the Egyptian soldiers were killed, all that stuff happened, and then, they went off into the desert. What's the next thing that happened? Yeah, well, they were hungry, right? They needed food and water. They didn't have any. And so the Lord provided manna. And so the spiritual meat here is the meat the Lord provided, and then also the drink. And so you may remember that Moses provided the water through Moses, through the rock. And what does that rock symbolize? Yeah. So Christ is the source of the living water, right? Remember the woman at the well? So all of this, everything we just said, that's all. All the people left Egypt, all the people crossed the Red Sea, all the people are eating manna, all the people drinking water from the rock. That's all. Okay, now verse 5. But with many of them, God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. What happened? When you say overthrown, what does that mean? Were there soldiers that came and killed them? What does it mean when it says they were overthrown in the wilderness? Yeah, molded, all that. Yep. So they didn't follow the Lord's instructions. If we look at Exodus 32, there's a lot of information there about it. I'll read some of it. And when the people saw Moses was delayed, so this is Moses going up to the mount to collect the 10 commandments. The people gathered themselves unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods which shall go before us, for as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become with him. So Moses hasn't been here, and we're kind of wondering what to do next, and we're getting bored. He's been gone a while, so we just kind of thought, yeah, let's make us a golden calf. And let's start, so remember, idolatry is not just a statue, it's not just worshiping a statue, it's all the other stuff. It's the gluttony, can't even say it, fornication, all that other stuff goes with it. And so that's what they're talking about. So they went ahead and put together the golden calf, and on the next day they offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat, to drink, and rose up to play. And the Lord said unto Moses, verse 7, Exodus 32 and 7, and the Lord said unto Moses, Go, get thee down, for thy people, which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, and have worshipped it, and have sacrificed thereunto, and said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Okay. What do you think about that? Didn't take long. Every single one of these had seen the plagues on Egypt. They had made their exodus from Egypt, and they all went through all of it. The Lord took care of them. They saw the pillar of fire. They saw the cloud. All that. And here they are turning the other way. Right. Right.
They were immersed. In other words, it was obvious to them. They had seen, they had experienced, they had tasted the manna that was provided.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was provided.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that they had seen. And yet, here in Paul's letter to the church at Corinth, who is he speaking to? He's speaking to saved people.
Right.
And he's telling saved people in another passage, Hebrews, he warned them about after tasting the goodness of Jesus Christ, turning to the old ways.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be careful, just like Paul's warning the church at Corinth, to be careful. We have seen, we have tasted, don't turn back to those old things, but stay true to what God has shown us already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they, yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that about the immersion, because they were 100% dependent on the Lord and on Moses' leadership to get them through the whole thing, to get to the other side, to even eat and drink every single thing. They were 100% dependent, and the Lord provided. And so now they decide, oh, we're going to take a break. We've had enough of this. We're taking a break. We're going to do what we want to do. We're gonna focus on the things we want to focus on, and let's go do this. And so here in Exodus 32 and 26 talks about sort of the impact of some of that. So Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who's on the Lord's side? Let him come unto me." And all the sons of Levi gathered themselves together unto him. And he said unto them, "Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, put every man his sword by his side, and go in and out from the gate to gate throughout the camp, and slay every man his brother, and every man his companion, and every man his neighbor." And the children of Levi did according to the word of Moses, and there fell that people day about 3,000 men. So I think pretty much got people's attention that they shouldn't be focused on the wrong things. And the reason Paul is talking to the church at Corinth is they had become arrogant. Oh, we're saved. We're saved. We got it made now. We're saved. And even though we're in this community where we have idolatry and all these other things, we're not worried or concerned about that stuff because now we're saved. And we know those gods and goddesses, all that stuff, aren't really that important. And they became overconfident. Do we know an example that we've studied recently about Solomon becoming overconfident? How many wives did he have? Anybody remember? It was a lot. So he married wives that were idol worshipers, thinking, well, I'm pretty wise, I can handle this situation, I can take care of this, and I don't need to worry about it. And what happened? Turned his heart, and then they actually made idols in some of the high places and completely sinned against the Lord. And so Solomon, other than Jesus, wisest person that walked the earth, if he can make that mistake, are we smarter than Solomon that we can figure this out? That we can be saved and we can just go wherever we want to go? I can go to the casino and I'm just going to go there to go for a meeting or watch a show or something, but I'm not going to gamble because gambling doesn't impact me. Doesn't really bother me. What do you think about that? Is that Yeah, they don't know that, right? Right. And then after some amount of time, it becomes an easy and usual thing for you to do. And you walk by all the gambling stuff every single time, in and out. So, well, maybe I'll just try one time. Somebody asked me to do it. Next thing you know, you're doing the same thing everybody else is doing, right? And so what Paul is saying is you're not as strong as you think you are to fight against the sin that's around you. And if you look at Israel, they thought they were strong too, and they weren't. And as a result of it, many things happened to them. So in verse 6, now these things were our examples to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. That was the thought, was the first wrong step. We've heard that so many times. The thought is the first thing. It's not the action. The action is what you do after you've been thinking about it. The first step is the thought about doing something. And so this idea of lusting after evil things is what happened with the Hebrews, with them in the desert. Also, verse 7, neither be idolaters as some of them, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Play meaning do whatever they want to do in this case. Neither let us commit fornication as some of them committed and fell in one day 23,000. 23,000. You think 23,000 people dying from Lord's judgment is going to get somebody's attention? How many people died in 9/11? It was a few thousand. Do you remember where you were when 9/11 happened? Like what you were doing that day and who you were talking to, and it interrupted everything. It doesn't matter what we were doing. We stopped just like everybody did, and we saw what happened, and those people lost their lives. And in this case, I'm certain it's the same thing. 23,000 people lost their lives. It says, neither let us tempt Christ as some of them also tempted and were destroyed of serpents. Neither murmur ye as some of them also murmured and were destroyed of the destroyer. So do you remember back when we studied in Numbers, do you remember Korah and the story about that? Anybody remember enough to say a summary of that? Yeah. Yeah, Lord's judgment came upon them immediately. They were there with Moses, and they were saying, and this is Numbers 16 and verse 2, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. So what does that mean? That means respected leaders, right? People that should have known better. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Wherefore lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. So he's challenging Moses' Aaron authority. And several different things happen. And then verse 16, and Moses said unto Korah, be thou and all thy company before the Lord, thou and they and Aaron tomorrow. And then the next day in verse 19, and Korah gathered all the congregation against them unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto all the congregation. And Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell upon their faces and said, O God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and thou wilt be wroth with all the congregation? And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the congregation, saying, get ye up from the tabernacle of Korah. And Moses rose up and went And the elders of Israel followed him. And down in verse 28, and Moses said, Hereby ye shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then the Lord hath not sent me. But if the Lord make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up, with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then ye shall understand that these men have provoked the Lord. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertained unto Korah, and all their goods. They and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. So there's God's judgment. So here is Paul reminding them, this is not a minor thing. This is not a trivial thing. The Lord takes it very seriously when we sin, when we knowingly sin, and these are all given as examples that we might have the same outcome. If the Lord's going to get rid of people in these ways, what about us? How easy is it for the Lord to take my life right now? So we shouldn't take that for granted. Verse 12, Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall. And this is, I can deal with this. I can take this myself. I don't need to worry about it. I know what I'm doing. How many times have we heard all those things before? And somebody can still fall. There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear it. So what's an example in the Bible where we know somebody escaped? Remember Potiphar's wife? What was that situation? Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't just one time, right? This is many, many times. And so Joseph was faithful to God and provided with him with a way to escape. And he physically escaped, and that he left, but she got his cloak or whatever, his garment. But he was able to get away, and then she accused him of it anyway. And Joseph was put into prison. But then what happened? He was there for a while, but then he wasn't. The Lord provided a path for him to get out of there. And so we're not going to cover the whole thing, but we all have temptations. We all have things, and we can go through all the list of the 10 Commandments and all the other sins we've been talking about lately, and we can say, yeah, this one and that one and the other one, these are the ones I have trouble with or whatever that I'm tempted by. And we can say, Lord, please help me to fight against that sin. Please help me to not just rely on myself and my strength and my ability to fight against it. Please provide your strength and your shield that we might not sin. That when you add the Lord's strength to your strength, that's pretty strong. And when we ask for that ahead of time, before a temptation even comes, the Lord can help us when that temptation comes to just go the other way, turn the other cheek, run away from it, do whatever to get out of that situation. Doesn't mean the Lord can't help us then, but if we think about it ahead of time and talk with God about it, he can really help us. He helps me. Would somebody like to read 1 Corinthians 10 and 14 through 22?
skill whatsoever is set before you, asking no question for the conscience sake. When any man stands to you, this is offered in sacrifice unto idols, eat not for his sake that show it, and for conscience sake, for the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that for which I give thanks? Whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do it all to the glory of God. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of God. Even as I please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of them that believe.
Thank you, Sister Kinsey. So in this part of it, he's talking about fleeing from idolatry, and part of what they had with idolatry is they had feasts, and this goes back to the eating food that was dedicated to idols or false gods. And why in the middle of this is he bringing up communion, basically the Lord's Supper and all that in the middle of this conversation? Why is that coming up here?
They were in a very idolatrous town. There were opportunities for them to go and eat with friends or brethren. However, there were potential ramifications. Paul was trying to get them to understand it is not all about you. It's not all about me. Our focus, my focus, should be on me, but more so, it should be on those around me and my testimony. It should be God first, and the things of God first, and then you follow in line after that. Family falls in there. Get it out.
Mm-hmm.
All about
Right, right. And sometimes what can happen with our freedoms, people can be confused and they can get a different impression. And so what Paul's talking about here with liberty is, yeah, there's things in the Bible it doesn't say is against God's law, God's rules, whatever, but it can still be used to lead people away from Christ. And for us, we should be tuned into what those things are and not be a stumbling block for somebody else. And in this situation here, so what happens when you're saved? So when you're saved, your heart changes, you have a heart for the Lord, you put aside what you've done before, and you accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, and you accept that it's by grace that you're saved. It's not by all the works that you did and how great you are that you became saved, but you're saved because Jesus Christ paid the price for you on the cross, and that he knew about you the very day that that happened. And so one of the things that we do as a church to show that we are saved serving the Lord together is we have a Lord's Supper where we all partake of the bread and the drink that symbolizes the blood of Christ and the body of Christ, because once we're saved, we're part of the body of Christ. And so if we're part of that, then what business do we have in an idol feast, joining ourselves to a false god, or to, it even says here, sacrifices made to devils? Why would we participate in that and think that's okay? And say, well, it doesn't impact me. Well, it does. It does. And so what Paul is saying here, you cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. You just can't do it. And do we want to provoke the Lord to jealousy? What does the Lord do when the Lord gets jealous? Things we just talked about. right? Do we want to be in that situation? Do we want to provoke the Lord to anger that we're doing it wrong? So here's Paul admonishing all of them. In verse 23, all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. What is expedient? Is that easy? Expedient? Expedient? Yeah, I can't take it for granted, right? Just because I have all this liberty, I can't take it for granted. I need to pay attention to what I'm doing because all things are lawful for me, but all things edify not, and that's edify the Lord. If I do something that takes people's focus away from the Lord or confuses them about the Lord, I'm doing it wrong. That's what Paul's saying here. Let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. And what he's talking about is spiritual wealth, spiritual well-being. He's talking about whatsoever is sold in the shambles. So the shambles is like the marketplace. So if you ever go to like farmer's market or whatever, outside market, you see a lot of that. If you go to other countries, they have a lot of that stuff. Some of that stuff you don't want to eat, trust me. Went to a fish market in Kuwait. Didn't smell really good there. But I'm sure some of it was good if it was cooked, but I didn't have anything. But you have to eat. Everybody has to eat. We have to eat something, right? So what'd you have for breakfast? I had a little bit of bacon. Darla got some raisin nut bran last night and some milk. I had that. Cup of coffee. That's what I had, but was that sacrificed to idols? Not that I know of. I don't know anything about it. Maybe somebody did, but I wasn't aware of it. And what Paul is saying here, when he bought something in the market, he said, asking no question for conscience sake. So if somebody did that or didn't do it, you're just there to buy something to eat. You're not there to buy something that's been sacrificed. However, verse 27, if any of them that believe not bid you to a feast and ye be disposed to go, whatsoever is set before you, eat, asking no question. So if you go to somebody's wedding or whatever, some event, some barbecue, whatever it is, if you're invited to that, then go and don't worry about it. But if somebody makes a big deal saying, oh, and this whole thing is in honor of Aphrodite, and we've sacrificed all this food or asked the blessing on all this food for Aphrodite, then can you stay? No. And I'm only using that as an example, but it could be anything.
Store, it could be food from a restaurant, some other product. You don't ask questions about what they're going to do with the proceeds from that. And yet, you know that many of them believe false religion, and they're going to take and they're going to give it to another religious group that is heretical. That's an application today. What are you going to do? Do you go in and you ask them, what are you going to use these proceeds for?
Mm-hmm.
There are companies out there that entities that the Lord would not be pleased in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you go in and ask those questions? Because honestly, when you look at social media and other things, you'll find boycott this because they do this, boycott because they do that. What do you do with that knowledge once you have that knowledge? It's a similar issue that they were dealing with then in the marketplace shambles,
Mm-hmm.
where they brought they answered the questions in the shambles. Then they were obligated to act accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
If we ask those questions, Procter and Gamble or whomever, then you have to then consider, there are a lot of people that invest in. There to act on them.
Mhm.
So, most of the time, it's not something that's obvious, but it's something we go out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think in our time, seems like more than ever, people are in your face about things. And so you don't need to worry if somebody's crazy or has an idea about idols or whatever else it is. People will pretty much act that way and tell you, uh, and thanks for your explanation, Brother Mike, because that's exactly it. What organization is this benefiting? And if it's an organization that God wouldn't have anything to do with, then we shouldn't have anything to do with it either. Yeah. Yeah. And lead people away. Yep. In all of this, we are supposed to seek the welfare of our brother, so it's not about us. It's really about other people. Verse 29, conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks? And then verse 31, whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever you do, do all unto the glory of God. That pretty much answers the question, right? For what I'm doing right now, is God being glorified or not? For where I am and what I'm doing or what I'm buying or where the money's going to or anything about it, if it honors God and glorifies God, great. It's probably a good place. Also, verse 32, give none offense, nor to the church of God. And here he's trying to reach people. Verse 33, even as I please all men in all things, not seeking mine own profit, but the profit of many that they may be saved. That says it. It's not the profit of money. It's the profit of being saved. And so what's between someone and their salvation? It could be us sharing our witness. It could be us sharing what God's done for us. If there's things in our life that are confusing to people, you say, well, you say you're a Christian, but you do this and this. Is that going to keep them from accepting our witness? Maybe it will. So we should think about that stuff ahead of time. And so for this whole thing, he's talking to the church at Corinth. They had divisions in the church. They had a lot of challenges they were trying to deal with. Part of the divisions were this idea of stronger and weaker Christians. Stronger ones saying, yeah, we're good to go and I don't need to worry about anything and I don't need to worry about anybody. Paul's saying, yeah, you do. You do need to worry because part of being unified is working together and supporting each other in the church. Is there anything else? Thank you. I think that's it for today.